One of the things I've been wanting to do is take this bracket. This is actually a 3D printed bracket I made for mounting my horns. Might not wear very well over time, so I'm going to simply cut this out of aluminum with my brand new gantry CNC machine. So let's get to it. Hi everybody, how are you? My name is Dan Dulek and welcome back to my channel where I am building a V10 powered Ultima Evolution convertible. This is episode number 46. Man, what a journey it's been. If you missed any of the previous episodes, be sure to go check those out on my channel to get you all caught up to where we are today. So we are making a lot of big progress on the interior of this Ultima. In the previous episode, I showed how I made the brand new bezel for the Motec 7-inch display. On this episode, we're going to upholster that with an Alcantara piece, as well as cover the dash. And I've got a few other surprises up my sleeve as well as we make big progress on this episode. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, so here's my setup on how I'm gonna go about covering this cowl. We saw this in the last episode. My sister made this. Thanks again, sis. This is going to be awesome. And what I've done here, I made a little 3D printed bracket that just bolts to where the screen would bolt. And then took one of my lift. This goes to my 4-post lift, just an additional jack. I put the adapter end in here, and then this will go like this. Snug fit. I clamp this down so it's rigid. So now I can swivel and rotate and have complete access to this to lay this cover on. So first up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pad this, certainly around the underside here and on these edges. So these pieces I'll simply glue here, and then I'll glue these pieces on. And this will give it a little bit of padding to fill out the seam area so I don't get any puckering. I'm hoping that once I glue these on, I can simply slide this over. It will stay in place, and all I'll need to glue is here on the underside where this laps over, and it should stay in place. So that's what we're gonna try. So let's get to gluing these on and start to fit. I have got this cowl somewhat wrapped here and glued, as you saw. And what I just did is I just cut some triangle slits along the side here. This will let me make this bend all the way around in this tight bend down here, so I can tuck, glue, overlap, pull it tight, and so forth. So a little bit tedious, but we're gonna get at gluing this, and then the back and top side will be done. Then I've gotta focus on what I'm gonna do on these corners. They're gonna be tricky, and then cover this piece as well. So making good progress. Let's keep it going. All right, guys, here we go. It's all done, all wrapped up, and I've just got it sit here on the dash temporarily, but you can see how that came out. I think it came out looking great. It took me literally a full day to get this thing wrapped. So let me show you the kind of the underside here. So you can see how I cut in little notches to glue around the edges. And you can see how it came out. Pretty sweet. But man, what a project that was to get this fully wrapped. And I discovered a potential issue here with the factory dash covering. I don't know if I've shown this to you before, but this is the Alcantara dash covering that will go on the dash. Put this up here. All right, so that's the dash covering. Now let's put this on there. And I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but it doesn't match. So the factory Alcantara here is a little bit darker, like a half a shade darker in black. Now you can see the steering wheel. The steering wheel is Alcantara. That matches my bezel, but not the dash covering. So I've already contracted my sister to basically reverse engineer this, and we'll remake the dash cover using the same Alcantara, the same thread. So we'll literally get a perfect match there. And I also noticed that this Alcantara is much closer to suede. It's got kind of a nap to it that you can see when you rub on it, whereas this does not. So it's definitely a different kind of material. It's a little bit thinner too. So in any event, we're gonna remake this dash cover with the same material. And talking to my sis, she said very easy to reverse engineer this and make a new piece. So that's what we're gonna do. And here are the two dash bezels side by side. And I had never considered this, so thank you guys for all the comments. I had never considered the glare this would create on the inside of the windshield out in the sunlight. And I think you guys are exactly right. I could do this maybe in a matte finish, but at the end of the day, I believe Alcantara is the winner. I do think this looks really nice, and that's gonna go great with the dash Alcantara to match. This was fun to make. Probably not gonna use it. Good learning experience, and if I ever do one of these again, I think I can make these even better. So anyway, that's how that came out, and I think the winner is Alcantara. That's what we're gonna use. On the previous episode, I showed the center console in the little cell phone storage box. Here you can see I decided to 3D print my own. And again, after some great feedback and some ideas from some of my followers here, I decided to put a wireless charger into the center console just to reduce any of the wires and so forth. So here you can see I designed this little iPhone storage box with this wireless charger. It's simply a press fit into the bottom of this case and then sits nicely into the center console as all one unit. And then on the end of the box, you can see I've got a hole there where I will put a separate USB charger for some additional charging capability. So I think this came out pretty nice. I got myself a nice little wireless charger that sits into the center console. All right, got my package back from my sister with the new dash cover all sewn up. So let's get this out of here. Ooh, nice. There it is. And a bunch of leftover Alcantara. I'll be using that. And there it is. Very nicely stitched. Beautiful job. Beautiful. Perfect match. Love it. All right, now we can get to cutting the holes that I've got laid out for the various buttons and so forth, and then we can get to start laying this on there and get this front cowl all finished up. All right, so let me show you where my button layout is. So I've put some tape here with some markers and some hole sizes that I'm going to drill in here. This is where the ignition key barrel will go, here on this side. And then over here I've got my master kill switch, which will be here, and the heater control button knob there. And then over there is where we'll have my electronic mirrors, side view mirrors. And then also what I did was I 3D printed some flat mounting locations for the heater vents. So this surface is not flat. And so the heater vent, the round heater vents I have are flat. So basically I just 3D printed this adapter here that I'm gonna glue on here, put a little body filler in here to fill the seams. And then when I cut the hole out here for the heater, it'll slide in and sit flush against this. And of course, this is all going to be covered with Alcantara, so you won't see any of this, but it'll give a nice flat surface for those heater vents to mount up there perfectly. So in any event, that's where we're at. We're going to get to cutting these holes so that we can prepare this front dash area for the covering and get this all buttoned up nicely. All right, we're going to put my new CNC machine to work, and one of the things I've been wanting to do is take this bracket. This is actually a 3D printed bracket I made for mounting my horns in the front area. So this is a little flimsy, might not wear very well over time, so I'm going to simply cut this out of aluminum with my brand new gantry CNC machine. So let's get to it. bracket. So both horns bolt here, and then this bolts to the chassis. To replace it, obviously, I just machined this part. So much better, way more rigid. Each horn, the nut holds both horns in side by side, and then this bolts right to the chassis. Pretty simple setup. About 20 minutes to CAD this up, send it to the machine, and machine it out. So not bad. Let's get it mounted up. All right, I got the new horn bracket all mounted up right down there. So that worked out beautifully. Another thing I did off camera was I got these splash guards, these fiberglass splash guards here on the front end, trimmed up, and boy, what a job that was. I've got them just taped on here temporarily, but let me show you what this looks like. So these guards just protect, these splash guards protect obviously this area of the chassis and prevents dirt and fluid and water and stuff from getting in here in behind the side pod. But you can see here, a fair bit of trimming required to get around the coolant tubes and so forth. And then these simply go on here like that, and then they'll rivet in place and give this some nice protection. So those are done. I actually did it on the other side as well. So this other side is taken care of as well, and those are ready to get riveted on. And then the front dash area will go over this lip and seal it up. So that is another little project that's a bit tedious, but that's all done now. So moving on. All right, let me show you the vents, the heating vents I'm putting in the car. These are from an Audi TT. I picked these up off of eBay. I saw a few other builders using these, and I really like them. They're really nice. They have an aluminum ring here, and pretty sweet. They do have a kind of a square opening in the back, so to convert that square opening to a 2.5 inch, I printed up a set of these little elbows, and they simply slip fit on just like that. And I might just put a self-tapping screw or something in there just to hold it so it doesn't come off, but it's a pretty tight fit. And then the HVAC tubing over here, this will simply, with a clamp, and there you have it. So there's going to be one on each side of the car, and then of course there is heat that comes down here. I did not install air conditioning on this car, given that it's a convertible open top. So did without the AC and to save some weight and plumbing. So just have heat here for the New England fall and early spring. So that should work out pretty well. All right, we've got both vents in place, hole drilled out. Just put the filler, 3D printed filler in place, just so you can see how that's gonna go, but I'll glue this in and do a little body work on it, make it nice and smooth, and this will be good to go. So let me show you guys what this heater vent looks like without this piece. So I took my 3D printed adapter or flush plate off. And you can see how, again, this surface is not flat. So you can see there's a gap here, both here and on the bottom, bigger gap on the bottom side. I almost stick my finger in there. So that's where these come in, again, to give that vent a nice flat surface to mount up to, so it looks nice and true. And again, this is all going to be upholstered with Alcantara, so you won't even see this, but it will just look molded into the dash. Should come out really nice. I drilled a couple pilot holes in here, so I'll finish drill these holes. And let me show you what the back side of this one looks like, so you can see that. So there you go, you can see the little 3D printed elbow there on the end of it. And that will route towards the center of the car where the heating unit is and connect with some 2.5-inch flexible hose. So that will work out beautifully. All right, so those are in and done. And let's keep it going. Let's drill the rest of these holes. All right, I have gotten all my buttons and so forth on the dash, just temporarily in place, just to make sure they all fit. You can see those there. Of course, the heater vents are in on both sides. I've got my side view mirror switch in place for controlling the mirrors. And then ultimately, as you can see, I've just got temporary labels here on my Motec keypad, just as I was testing the software and so forth, but I've got the official button labels there. So I'll get those labels on once I've got those buttons programmed permanently. That is pretty much done, and this is ready for the Alcantara dash covering. So what I'm gonna do is put on first this padding. This is some dash padding that I'll lay down first, and then I'll put the Alcantara over the top of that. And that'll give the dash kind of a nice padded feel to it. So that is next up on the list. Let's get this thing covered in Alcantara. All right, we've got the dash padding on here. I've got all the cutouts done, and now I'm just gonna piece together these corners, put some padding here, but pretty easy stuff to put on. Not too bad. Worst part is this goopy, high temp contact cement. That stuff is sticky and nasty. But so far so good. We're gonna keep going on getting this padding done, and then it's time for the Alcantara. I am a sweaty mess. I've got the Alcantara on the dash. It's not quite done yet, but I wanted to show you guys. I mounted the Motec 7-inch display as well, so you can see that. So guys, after a whole day worth of work, let's take a look. All right, there it is. I've got the display on with the gauge bezel, and it is on there. Now, what I've got to do left is glue it on the front side here, and obviously cut the holes out for the steering wheel, all the buttons and so forth, but it's in there. And not too bad, but it was a full day's worth of work. I am exhausted, and it's quite stressful, but I think it came out really nice. It's got some pad to it, which is exactly what I wanted. And I wanted to get a video out, so at least I wanted to get this far on this so you guys could see. And then in the next video, I will show the finishing up of this dash and so forth. So I see some waves in here. Might be a little tricky getting these out, but the good news is I've got the steering wheel hole here, so I can use that to get rid of some of these puckers. Anyway, we'll worry about that for another day. But man, that came out really nice. I'm really happy with it. We're about halfway to the finish line getting this thing wrapped up. So guys, that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for your patience. I know it's been a little bit since my last video, but it's been a busy summer, a lot's going on. My goal is still to have this car under its own power on the road before snow flies. So once we get this dash back on the car, I can wire up all the electronics, refire it, and see if this thing will go into drive in the transmission. So fingers crossed, we're not far, guys. Until then, we'll see you next time.